The Spartans of Norfolk State, Pete Adrian, 5-7 last year. He's in his 5th year, and former UConn transfer Dennis Brown has experience. He's going to fight Dexter Merritt for the job. 14 returning starters. Running back D'Angelo Branch, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and R.J. Waters, North Carolina State transfer. They will be in that backfield together.
Well, the running back situation is fine at Norfolk State. They have a really good running back, 10 touchdowns. He's going to be fine. That's D'Angelo Branch. They have 2 really good tackles. So bookends, they're fine. The rest of the offensive line has some questions. So you have to get that interior offensive line working. They're inexperienced at wide receiver, and the quarterback has to improve. Dennis Brown, 9 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 58% completion percentage. He has to get better in order for the offense to grow and gel like they're supposed to.
Carlton Ford, Kendall Noble, Marquise Preston, some great offensive linemen you mentioned. Terrell Whitehead, free safety, was a first-teamer. 4 interceptions last year. Nose guard Ray Jennings, 4.5 sacks and 4 tackles for loss.
Well, Ray Jennings is a nose guard that plays outstanding. He plays on the other side of the offensive line. It's a guy that's a disruptive force up the middle. He's the best player defensively. Sans Terrell Whitehead with 11 pass breakups and 4 interceptions. So I like Whitehead. I like Jennings. Jamie Short, another cornerback, 6 pass breakups as well. But the linebackers is a solid group because they get 3 starters returned. So the defense should be okay for Norfolk State.
And the Hornets of Delaware State, Alton Lavon, 5-6 last season. He's in his 6th year, 12 returning starters. Anthony Glaude, their quarterback, is back. 4 returning offensive linemen, but they lose their best, Adrian Bound, the left tackle, LaRon Moore, their wide receiver to look out for.
Yeah, that offensive line, they return a lot of players, but they, like you said, they lost their star. That's going to hurt because he was a driving force of that offensive line. Anthony Glaude has some talent, but he still has to improve the passing game. And they must find a running back for Delaware State because they were atrocious last year as far as running the football. So you can't keep teams honest unless you run the football, and they weren't able to do that last year. So they have to find a running back.
And defensive side of the ball, Andre Carroll, the defensive tackle. Strong safety Avery Grant and cornerback Francis Adai had 3 interceptions last year.
The secondary is a real strength. I like the secondary for the Hornets, but they have to generate some pass rush. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day for those guys back there in the secondary. They couldn't generate sacks last season, so teams were able to sit in the pocket and pick them apart. Thank goodness they have some good secondary players that can get their hands on a lot of interceptions, but they have to do better on the defensive line.
Well, the Bison of Howard were a terrible 1-10 last year. Carrie Bailey, only in his 3rd year. 15 returning starters, though. That's a plus. That's a positive. Floyd Hagler, the quarterback. 4 starters on the offensive line. Sean Wolford, the center. Michael Russell, the right tackle. And Carlos Whitaker, the running back. And Ramon McElrathbey, who's from Clemson. You probably heard of him before. Those are 2 running backs to look out for.
Yeah, the running back situation is good. They have 2 good running backs. Problem is the offensive line has to improve. 34 sacks they gave up last season, so they have to improve their pass blocking and run blocking as well. I like their quarterback, Floyd Hagler, 17 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. If he can cut down on those interceptions, he's going to be fine. He's athletic, he stands tall in the pocket, he's fearless. But the fact that they do have those running backs, you look at Whitaker and McElrathbey, that's a good duo. So those guys are going to do well. Receivers, they have Willie Carter, a tremendous athlete. He will jump and get the ball at his highest point, so he can jump out the stadium. He looks to moss a lot of people this season, but they have to improve that offensive line out there in D.C.
Well, they're probably wishing McElrathbey could play cornerback also because their defenses have been atrocious this year. Talk about some of their defense players.
Well, I know Carrie Bailey, and I know he knows defense, so I know Coach Bailey will get that defense headed in the right direction. They have to find a pass rush. That's his specialty. Coach Bailey was a defensive lineman, All-American, All-Conference defensive lineman at Tennessee. So I know he's really working hard getting that defensive line together, but they have to generate some pass rush. Also, I like the safety Arnando Jameson, 79 tackles, 6.5 sacks as a strong safety. So he's a physical presence, real big guy. I like him a lot. But they have some talent on the defensive line. You look at Will Croner and James Carter. Those 2 guys can play. They just have to be consistent, with the interior line, as well as find some other linebackers as well that can play alongside those guys.
They're trying to implement the defensive scheme. We'll see what happens.
Coach Bell is going to get that defense together. He had the defense in place in his 1st year, and they lost some players, and they lost a lot of close games last season. They were in a lot of games. They just have to tighten up on their defense, which I know he'll do.
The North Carolina A&T Aggies, Alonzo Lee, 3-9. He's in his first, takes over 3-9 squad. He's in his first year. 14 returning starters. Carlton Fears won the job last year. It's his to lose, but they lose their top running back, top receiver. But the good thing is that all 5 returning offensive linemen return.
That might be a good thing and a bad thing because the offensive line gave up way too many sacks last season. So I don't know if I was a quarterback, I would want to be standing behind that offensive line. But you look at Herb Miller as well as Carlton Fears, they're going to battle it out for that quarterback job. So that's the only good thing that's going to come out there is going to have 2 solid quarterbacks as they compete against each other. But they have to find a running back. That's key. They also have to get some consistency out the receiver position. That's not the key. But, if that offensive line can figure out how to pass block, they'll be fine because they're going to have a big wall up front.
Defensive line, not bad, led by Glasper, Stanfield, and Beal, and linebacker Andre Thornton heads the linebacking corps.
And on the back end, you look at free safety Nick Clement, 61 tackles, 5 pass breaks, 5 pass PBUs. He can get back there and get his hand on a lot of balls. 30 points a game is not going to win you a lot. And that's the reason why they weren't that good last season. 4.5 yards a carry they were giving up. Run defense has to show up for the Aggies to be successful.
The Winston-Salem State Rams, Kermit Blount, 3-8 last season. He's in his 7th year. 6 returning offensive starters, 9 returning defensive starters. Jared Dunston had 9 starts last year, and T.N.A. Jefferson had 2. They'll battle it out for the top spot.
Yeah, Jared Dunston last season, 3 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 45% completion percentage. That's not good for any quarterback at any level. So he has to improve. That should be his focus this offseason to get better. The running back, you're looking at Nicholas Cooper, 488 yards. Pretty decent pedestrian effort, but they have to get more production out the running game. The offensive line has to improve as well. They have a veteran group, so they want to go out on their best legs, so they have to improve as well too. But it looks like it might be a tough year down there at Winston-Salem.
Marcus Coates, their leading tackler, is back, which is a plus. And defensive end Joshua Newkirk made 6.5 tackles for loss.
Well, their run defense was okay last year. They gave up 3.7 yards a carry, so they were really stout against the run. You look at Alex Chandler, 2 interceptions back there as a cornerback. Also, I like the fact that their linebacker, Cedric Marshall, 39 tackles, 4.5 sacks. Across the board, though, they have to get more talent on that team. The Rams are headed in the right direction, but they have to get more talent and play with more consistency.
And now for our MEAC preseason predictions. My offensive player of the year, I'm going to go with LaMarcus Coker, Hampton running back, former Tennessee.
I'm going to go same position, different player, better player. I'm going to go William Ford, South Carolina State. I'm going to go with the for sure money. He's an awesome playmaker. He's a really good running back. He will be dynamite this season.
Love the Bulldogs this year. Defensive player of the year.
Terrell Whitehead, free safety, Norfolk State. This is a guy that gets his hands on a lot of balls, is always around the football. You want that from a free safety. Could cover sideline to sideline.
I'll take Cameron Houston, defensive tackle of FAMU. And my pick to win it is I'm going to stay in FAMU. I'm going to go with the Rattlers. There's a new sheriff in town, Coach Taylor, taking over Buddy Poe's reign as South Carolina State.
I like FAMU as a winner in the MEAC as well too. Partly because they have the better defense. I think the defense with the better offense. Overall, they have a more cohesive unit. I think they're going to edge South Carolina State. Plus, they have the better special teams, and that may be the difference when they play each other. Like I said, Leroy Van, 3 touchdowns, both punt return and kick return last season. The X factor, that's going to help swing that game. I think FAMU is going to win the division.
For more FCS previews, visit footballgameplan.com/smallcolleges.